Hi, my name is Catherine Francis Mangare. I'm an instructor in YEESI103 Machine Learning in Agriculture. In the previous videos, you were with Mr. Deus, and today we'll be checking a case study on sustainable optimization of agricultural production. The problem statement in this case study will be required to build a predictive model so as to suggest the most crop to grow based on the available climatic and soil condition, which has been defined or collected by a lab, a smart agriculture lab, whereby we have collected the data. So the goal of this project is to achieve precision farming by optimizing the agricultural production. So the data we have downloaded from the cargo in the lab of smart agriculture production optimizing engine, whereby they have been working on the smart agriculture, how the smart agriculture has been improved by artificial intelligence. The data is not so big because it has only 150 KB, and it shows all recommendation of the crop to grow in a particular area according to the production. Now, when we come back to our work, we intend to have the optimized productivity and understand which requirement of climate and the soil condition for a particular crop using machine learning. So by starting, we need to import the necessary libraries. So our first library will be required to import the NumPy because we have some numerical data. We'll import pandas for data manipulation and analysis. We would need to do some visualization, so we'll have to import matplotlib and the seaborn. And then because we need to have the drop-down menu, then we'll have to use the interactive analysis. Now, we need to read the data. The data we can assign by the name, any name which you can be like to assign, but in our case, we have call as data, and then we will have to read our CSV file by the function panda.read_CSV. Now the file which is located in the YEESI server here, this is the data, we call it by its exactly name, which is data.csv. Now we can see the data shape by calling the function data.shape. And then with this one, we'll see we have 2,200 rows and 8 columns. For my case, I don't prefer to show the warnings, so I had to import this function of ignoring or filter the warning. Then we need to see the data in the file by checking what comprised in the particular data. We had to read the head and the tail. The head will show the first 5 rows and all the columns. So from the first 5 rows, they will start from index 0 up to index 4. And the all columns are these one, which are 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then if we need to see our last 5 columns, the last 5 rows, we can call by the function tail, by which you can see with the label coffee, we will have the last 5 rows. Maybe we need to see the properties and the methods of the data. We can use the function dir to see the properties and the method. And we can present the shape and the label. Now for the properties, you will see that our data type are the object. And then when we come for the shape, you will see that we have these rows, which start from the index 0 up to index 2,199, which marks the length of 2,200. And we can see the label of our data, which presents the name of the crop. Now, let's go for the exploratory analysis. In the exploratory analysis, the first thing we have to check the missing value. So in the missing value, we'll have to use the function is null. So is null will help us to know that our data have the missing value in any of the cell or not. And unfortunately, our data has no missing value. But in case when you are running your data and found that you have missing value, you can remove or you can replace the missing value by the value of mean, median, and mode. How? The panda function has the not available function, which is treating the miss value. So in this way, if your data has the numerical column, use the panda to find the mean. If your data has the categorical column, then use the mode to replace the missing value. And then if your data has the outliers, use the median to replace the missing value. Let's check or let's count every crop which is available in our data set by calling the value underscore count function. So in this way, it means you can call the label and the count that every crop, how many crops are presented in our data. So we can find in all 22 crops, we have 100 in each crop which are presented in our data, which mark of 2,200 crops. Let's check the average climatic condition and the soil requirement which are presented in our data, by which we'll have to use the function mean. So in the function mean, we can call the average ratio for all nitrogen, the average ratio for all phosphorus, potassium, the temperature, humidity, pH value, and the rainfall. Now, these are the results which can be presented according to the average. So the average will just help us to know the average climatic condition and the soil requirement. Now we need to see the statistics for each crop, by which we'll use the function interact. This one will help us to have the drop-down menu for every crop. Instead of showing all crops in one cell, you just choose only one crop and then you print the summary of a particular crop. So for this case, we'll have to present the minimum temperature, the average the minimum, average, and maximum item required according to the particular crop. For example, let's see, we need to see for the rice, or we need to see for the maize. If you click for the maize, you will see the nitrogen, the phosphorus, the potassium, all requirement required for the particular crop. Now, we need to compare the average requirement and condition for each crop. For example, you need to see for the nitrogen or for the potassium, how many is needed for the rice, for the black gram, for banana, for every item. Then we can also check which crop are below or which crop are above the average condition. Because we have found the average, now we can see which crop require more than the defined one. For example, for the nitrogen, the average we have found it. Now, which crop they need more than the average which has been found? For nitrogen, we can see the rice, maize, chickpea, black gram, etc. And the one which will require low than average are the chickpea, kidney pea, the pigeon peas, all these beans and peas, apple, grapes, mango, they need a small nitrogen, and other rice, they need a large nitrogen. See for the temperature, there are others which needs more than the required the average temperature which has been collected, and the other crop needs less than. So we can identify them by using the artificial intelligence. So in this case, let's see the distribution of all of all items which are found in our data, all columns which are found in our data, so that we can identify the outliers which are found in the particular column. Or so you can see from the nitrogen, we see most of the data are relying in the left side, and the phosphorus, we have a very little outliers. For potassium, you will see only few outliers which are aside, but most of them, they are relying in one place. But the temperature is very good because the presentation is normal distributed. The pH also, the temperature is normal distributed according to our data. So we can find that the outlier for our data is very little. Now we can maybe be, because in our project, we were interested to see which crop have unusual requirement, like very large temperature, very large nitrogen, very low temperature, very low humidity. So we had to check according to a certain value which we decided to define. For example, in nitrogen, we had to check which will require more than 120. In phosphorus, more than 100. In potassium, we had to check more than 200. In rainfall, more than 200. In temperature, we had to check which can grow in less than 10 temperature and larger than 40. And in humidity, the same in pH, in less than 4 and larger than 9. Unfortunately, we found some crops which can grow in unusual requirement. We did not end there. We had to go further and check for the one which can grow according to the season. For example, in the summer, in winter, and in monsoon. So we had to introduce how the summer, always during summer, we have the temperature which is larger than 30 and the humidity is larger than 50. So it means there are some crops which can grow here, by which you will see in summer, we have the pigeon peas, moth peas, black gram, mango, grapes, orange, and papaya. In winter, we found the maize, pigeon peas, lentils, pomegranate, grapes, and orange. And in monsoon crops, we have the rice, papaya, and the coconut. Now we had to go for the clustering. And this clustering, we needed to see the K-means. We needed to have the value of K so that we can put our crops in the cluster. So we imported the K-means from the sklen, and then we had to remove the column label because it had the string value. And then we had to select the value for our X value and then check for the X value that is having 2,200 rows and 7 columns. So in that case, one column has been removed. So here, in finding K-means, we had to use the elbow method. The elbow method will determine to get the value of K, and that value of K will have to fit in the model and see how we'll have to fit in the model so that we can choose number of cluster which we can be using for the prediction. So in starting, we had to draw the figure, and the figure which is having the figure size of 10,4, and we had to use some points from the centroid in the clustering. And in this case, we had to introduce the loop which will be surrounding all the K-means until we get up to the end, whereby we'll get to the elbow point. So in our diagram, we'll get the elbow point falls in the 3 and 4. And automatically, which one should we choose? We'll have to choose the 4, which is greater. And in the same case, the 4 we'll have to use as a parameter in our model of K-means. So the value will have to be placed here. So in that case, this one, it means it is for showing the cluster of our crops. So we see the first cluster will be having these crops. The second cluster will be having these crops. The third one will be having this one, and the fourth one will be having this one. Now let's go for the prediction now. In the prediction, we'll have to split our data in 20% and 80%. 20 will be using for the testing, and the 80% will be using for the training data. So in the splitting the data, we'll be using the model from sklearn, train, test, split. So you can see when the data have been splitted, they will be presented in this method, in this presentation. Now, in the beginning, we said that our aim of this project is to find the predictive model which can help us to predict the right product, the right crop to grow in a right climatic condition. So in our case, we have used the supervised learning. In the supervised learning, I chose to use the logistic regression. We can test the other model and see their result. So in starting with the predictive model of the logistic regression, we have to call the model and then fit the data of train and the X train and the Y train. And then we can predict the label of testing. So in that case, if we present the confusion matrix, the figure shows that most of the data have been predicted correctly. Only few are not predicted correctly. So in this way, it means we can define the classification report of how it has been classified according to the data, how when we splitted them in 80-20. So you can see in the apple, precision was this, recall was this one, F1 score was this, and the support was 18. The same up to the watermelon. This was the result. So when we find the accuracy, we have found that the accuracy rely on 97% of the accuracy. Now let's recall from our data, and then we need to see maybe the tail or the head of our data from the file. So we can call the tail or the head. Maybe if we call the head of the data, then we can run from there. We can see how they will be presented there. Now we need to do the prediction testing our model. Put the values here. Like maybe we need to put it from this slide. But now we put the value which can be averaging from this data. Like maybe we put the nitrogen should be 70. And then phosphorus should be 30. And then maybe phosphorus should be 30 and potassium should be maybe 33. And then when we are coming for the temperature, we need maybe temperature 25. And then if the humidity is 60 or 70, and then coming to the pH is 7, and then the rain maybe 200. And then let's predict our model to see. You'll see that the suggested crop for the given climatic condition is rice. Thank you for listening me. Then let's meet in the next video when we'll be checking another case study, which will be basing on the Internet of Things. Thank you.